What if I could guarantee you could have everything you've ever wanted in your business life, but you had to face yourself? Now you're probably wondering, what do I mean by face yourself? I'm here to tell you that probably the greatest thing you will ever face in your journey to be successful is actually you. In most cases, you, ourselves, we stand in the way of the very things we need to do to be successful. One in particular thing is our comfort. Our level of comfort and how we actually adjust to that can directly affect how successful we are in business. What if I could give you 5 steps to help you be comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Your stories, your experiences can change it all. Let's fight failure together. We can defeat 90.
Let's dive into this idea of uncomfort. Here's the reality is that there is any great thing you can think about anybody who's achieved, whether it be a gold medal in the Olympics to a really amazing marriage to, I don't even know, think about some of the greatest successes. I guarantee you behind that was a lot of struggle, pain, things that will make you uncomfortable. And the reality is, even like, okay, let's take an abstract thought like happiness. Like, how do we break down the idea of knowing what happiness is? I think sometimes the way to understand ideas like happiness or understand pain or joy is you have to have both. If everything was always the same, okay, so let's walk through this idea. So if everything is always the same and everything, there's no difference in that. So let's just say you were happy all the time. How would you actually know you're happy unless you actually had things that were unhappy? And so as we build this idea around how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is to recognize anything you really want great in your life, you're going to have to be uncomfortable to do it. And if you think about some of the greatest achievements in your life, whether it be even like, let's say high school, and you had to go through all the tests and all the homework. And for me, homework, I hated homework. You had to do all those things to eventually get your diploma. And yes, a lot of the things we did in high school were uncomfortable or for me, just annoying. I got bored out of my mind. Being a little ADHD, anyways. But the thing is, and this is the part that's the key element of this whole thing, is that you've already seen how being uncomfortable and facing those things were tough led to something great. Here's the other thing to think about. If you don't face those things that are uncomfortable, if you don't try to work through that and find a way to be okay with it, sometimes the things we let be comfortable in our life are actually destroying us. Those relationships you should have ended, or those habits and things that people we do in our life that are actually destroying us, that because we're comfortable, we don't actually face it. And in that, being comfortable can actually cause as much pain as not facing the actual uncomfort of the pain. As we dive into this idea, I think there's a direct correlation to our ability to be uncomfortable and how successful we can be in life. And when I say success is relative. Success is relative to where and how and what you want to do in your life. But I can definitely guarantee in that process, there will be in your personal growth or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, those tough things. But is the statement you always hear, the pain of staying the same, and like you only change when it's too painful, right? But what if we could flip that? What if we could flip the narrative and get to a place where we're actually comfortable with being uncomfortable? And because we understand the consequences sometimes of staying the same are worse than the consequences of facing the pain and the uncomfortableness. Really, what we're trying to do is get to a place where we can weigh out these things. The idea is to trick our brains, to turning the uncomfortable things into normal. There's a quote that I really like. I've heard quote experiences that I've heard a lot of business people talk about, that as you grow in business and as you have bigger and bigger problems, the problems of 2 years ago that used to seem like life ending are now so simple, because as you've graduated in your problem solving and your ability to handle these things, those things become easier. So the idea is in working through and understanding how to be uncomfortable, you can actually skip the process of that. And so this is something I've been working through a lot because there's a lot of things I don't want to do. Let's just talk about me for a second. I have been on a journey of losing weight. It's not been easy. I personally cope with food. I have had, I guess, an unhealthy relationship with food. And it's something I have worked on since like my late 20s. For me, it's gotten to the point now as I'm turn 41 that I'm realizing if I don't deal with this relationship, if I don't put myself in uncomfortable positions, the pain of that in the next 15, 20 years could be dire. And or even past that, my quality of life could be in jeopardy based on the decisions I'm making right now. I am in the process of dealing with that and working through and becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. And there's definitely moments, I know that sounds, for some of you guys might be thinking that's silly to be uncomfortable with what I eat or when I exercise, but making myself do things that I wouldn't normally do because it's outside of my comfort, it will have a direct benefit to my life and genuinely to my life. It will extend my life. There's things in our life that we're facing that it's switching the way we think about it and weighing out the entire perspective. So let's dive into this. Here are 5 things I feel like are the process that I've seen in my life to do what I'm doing right now, to do the uncomfortable things and to normalize it to where, hey, this is something that I'm better off for doing. So number 1, defining discomfort. So much of the time, we don't understand why it's actually uncomfortable. I know that sounds silly. We're like, well, I don't want to do that. But why do you don't want to do it? What is it about the thing that's so tough or uncomfortable or causing pain that makes us not want to make that choice? And something that when you start looking through that, for me, I was using, again, food as a coping mechanism instead of just dealing with the pain or the things I faced in life in a healthy way. So by doing that and putting food in its proper place or my health in its proper place, it started the process of being able to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Next, win the worst case scenario. And that's worst case scenario, what I mean by that is if you take the discomfort all the way, so basically for me, not doing sugar and not eating out and doing the seed oils, and I can go through the list of all the things that make my life more uncomfortable right now. But if I play out and face everything that's uncomfortable with it and understand, then my brain can wrap its head around, okay, maybe I'm making too big of a deal of this. Now, granted, here's the thing. There are some things as you're working through that maybe aren't worth change. But in most cases, deep down, we know that they need to be. So first, defining the discomfort, then really wrapping our head around how painful can this be when we face it. The third thing is define the upside. So I think in that same side as I can see, okay, I can have a better quality of life. Yes, I may not have the tasty, delicious things I'm getting a dopamine hit off of, but my quality of life could skyrocket and will and has skyrocketed as I've made these better, healthier decisions that make me uncomfortable. So by weighing out the pain of what it's going to cause, but also with the benefits, it starts to start making the uncomfortable seem more normal. As I start diving into my mindset about this, started thinking through, I'm like, you know what? Like for instance, like sugar, is it really worth it when I can have natural sugars or things that have less added sugar that I can still have the taste, flavor in a healthy way that's within the calories and all the things I'm trying to do and the parameters of the lifestyle I'm changing to. But when I think about the pain of after I have sugar and the fact that I have these crashes and these things where I'm tired all the time, it's really not as comfortable as I think it is. Changing that way of looking at it helps me to actually move forward, which I'm leading to the fourth thing, the compare and contrast between the pain is staying the same the pain of changing and looking at it and really evaluating, okay, you know, I can be uncomfortable for this. I can make this choice. I can wake up earlier, or I can not spend money, or I can live by a budget, or I can change this attitude I've been having. And one of the things I've also been working at is trying to be more positive and celebrating, being more thankful, and looking at that instead of being caught up in the little things. And there's all these things, these benefits that as you start weighing all this stuff out, it starts making it not so uncomfortable. The fifth thing is the part that, let's say there's something you're facing and you're still like, it's just still tough because change is something that we inevitably, like our bodies are wired to be comfortable. Like we are always trying to, like our brains, our neural pathways are always trying to normalize. It's taking risk or making big changes. This is not something that, I mean, literally, if you think about it from the perspective that we have fight or flight when it comes to challenges, there is that flight method of escaping it, right? And keeping things like keeping yourself safe and getting away from the struggle. When it comes to the gut check, deep down, you have to get a place inside of you that you understand and like, do I want this or do I not want this? Because if you really can get to a place where you're okay with the uncomfort, and that's when the true change, where your gut gets to this place where like, no, I'm good. This is not so bad. Kind of where all this stuff started for me. And for the example that I really, so I've gotten into this, I love travel vlogs and blogs and YouTube channels. And there's one of my favorites is Kara and Nate, if you've ever heard of them. And they continue these challenges where they literally push their body to the brink of basically collapsing and doing these things that they never thought possible. But as they continue to face the uncomfortableness, as they continue to do these things, you can see the progression of their videos when they first started doing these more challenging things. It's not so hard. It's crazy. They'll say, this is the toughest thing I've ever done. And then you look like 4 years later, 5 years, 6 years later, and some of the things they're doing, I'm like, there's a drastic difference between the struggle they were facing here and the struggle they're over here, and they keep on one-upping it. But the thing that I love about that picture and watching these videos around this idea is that as they see the personal change in them, you see the confidence. Like, I think as you watch their channel and how it's grown, and they're one of the more popular travel, YouTube channels in America, is I think part of it was as they took on these tasks, as these challenges, it strengthened their character to resolve as they were building their business and doing everything else. And they had more confidence. I think the adverse effect of your gut, and as you start rewiring these things and how you think and how you are able to perceive struggle and pain and the uncomfortable, it makes life easier. Like you start things you would never try, you do. Even like right now, I'm in the process of growing Defeat 90. What you guys may not know is that I put everything in. I'm building this off of my savings because I want to do something in my life at 41 that can actually change lives and make an impact versus just making money. And there's a very good chance that maybe it doesn't work out. But I'm shooting my shot. I'm doing the uncomfortable, and I'm going to face it every single day. And we're going to start seeing more and more content, because even if it doesn't fail, hopefully I can help one or two people. To me, that makes the uncomfort worth it. And hopefully at some point I can figure out financially how to make it through this. But the reality is, as I do the tough things, as we do the tough things in our life and face them, and we see we can, and the only reason I can take on this challenge is because I've done so many tough things in business to this point. If this was my first endeavor, I would be scared out of my mind. But like basically doing what I'm doing and taking this risk it has its moments. But as a whole, I'm like, no, I'm good because I've done all these things that have led up to this. And I've taken on I've been uncomfortable so much in my life. And now I'm working on other parts of my life that I'm comfortable in that need to change. So my challenge to you today is take these 5 things. Let's wrap them up, okay? Define the discomfort. Play it all the way out. What's the worst case scenario? What pain you could be in? Define the upside so you can counteract that. And then compare and contrast that. And ultimately, let the change come from your gut that you decide and you act and you do. And the more you do that, the more you act, the more you do, the more you face the uncomfort and become comfortable with the uncomfortable, I guarantee at the beginning that you will see success in ways you never thought possible. Because so much of the time, it's our comfort level that keeps us from achieving our dreams.